Hello guys, my name is Destiny and welcome back to the series. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and start building out the HTML structure, and I'm going to be explaining everything that goes into building out the structure, from tags to elements and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be having a whole lot of fun while learning some new things if you're totally new to HTML while building this simple structure. Okay, so if you don't want to see this part, you could go ahead and skip ahead to other videos in the series and get to the core of what we're going to be doing, which is working with the back end. So if you don't have any idea about HTML or CSS, then you'd want to stick around this video till the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you take a close look at my desktop, you'd see that I've got these two files over here. One is an image folder which has some images in it. Okay, so if you open up the snippets file over here, then you'd see that I've got some snippets here, and I'm going to be showing you guys what you'll be using the snippets to do. But for now, I just want to tell you that we've got this image folder over here. I just created a folder on the desktop and I called it images, and I added some images to it. But to get all this, you don't need to stress yourself. All you need to do is follow the link and download the source code. Okay, now what I want to do is, on my desktop, I want to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one YouTube clone. So I'm going to say YouTube clone, just like that. And this folder over here, I want to open it up on my favorite code editor. And in this case, I'll be using Visual Studio Code. Okay, so you can use whatever you want to use. It's totally up to you. You can use Sublime Text or brackets. That's totally up to you. So I'm just going to open up Visual Studio Code. As you can see, I've got it over here. And this is the snippet I told you guys about. Now what I want to do is come over here, and I'm just going to get back here. Let's see. I'm just going to get back to my desktop. I'm going to drag this, open up Visual Studio Code, and I'll just drop it in here. Okay, so as you can see now, the folder is opened up. Now the first thing we want to do is go ahead and create a new file, and this one we're going to call it index.html. So if you're new to HTML, then I'd want to tell you that this is not like a name that you must call it. Okay, you could call this whatever you want. You could call this some, like, let's say pants.html. You could call this some like orange.html. It's totally up to you. But in some cases, whenever you want to deploy, some deploying platforms actually wants to see this text index.html so that they can use that as the homepage of whatever website you're building or whatever app you're building. Okay, so hopefully you understand. So after typing out the index, after creating the new file index.html, then we want to go ahead and get a HTML boilerplate code. And in order to get that, all you need to do is, if you're using Visual Studio Code, I think if you are using Sublime Text, I've got my Sublime Text over here, I've got brackets. If you are using all those, you won't be able to generate the boilerplate code automatically and fast as Visual Studio Code. I think if you're using Sublime Text, you're going to generate it, but it's not going to be as easy as HTML, or rather Visual Studio Code, I meant to say. Now, in order to generate the boilerplate code, all you need to do is just type out HTML, and you're going to see this HTML5 over here. So that's the one you want to open. So as you can see, we've got this HTML5 over here. So for the first code, we're just going to come in here and open up a head tag, so H1, and we're going to type YouTube clone. So it's just like, this is the home page, right? Something like that. Or we're just gonna type YouTube. So if you want to open this up on a browser, all you need to do is come over to your desktop, open up the folder that you created, and as you can see, we've got index.html. So what you want to do is open up a browser like this, and you want to open up a new tab. And what I simply want to do is come over here. I'm going to drag this index.html and drop it over here. So if you haven't changed this before to automatically get opened up with a text note or something like that, then you're gonna see the Chrome icon over here, or Edge, based on whatever browser you're using. Then all you need to do is just go ahead and double click on it. Okay, so as you can see, what do you notice over here, we've got YouTube. And I also want to show you guys that this is what we're going to be building in this series, and as I've showed you guys already in the future videos, and we're going to be making reference to this by coding out the structure. Okay, so as you can see, this is working perfectly well, but there is one more thing that I want to show y'all. Now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag this code, and I'm going to drag my browser and drop it over here, and I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code side by side. Now whenever I make any change over here, if I say something like YouTube clone, then I'd want to come over here and click on this button to refresh it. Okay, but that's not what I want to do. That's going to be a pain in the ass. Now I want to automatically refresh my browser whenever I make any change over here. And in order to do that, I need to use an extension called Live Server. So you want to come over to the extensions tab over here, and you want to search for an extension called Live Server, and it's going to go ahead and search it. As you can see, this Live Server, all you need to do is click on it. I already have it installed, but in your case you won't have it installed. That's if you haven't installed it already. So just go ahead and install it and activate it or enable it based on whatever version you're using. And when that's done, all you need to do is close out your Visual Studio Code like this, then reopen it again. And so I think that's taken a little bit of time to open up. And when your Visual Studio Code is opened up perfectly well, I'm going to go ahead and align this again. Now all you need to do is come over to your index.html file. You want to right click and you want to click open with Live Server. So it's going to automatically open it to Live Server with Live Server on your default browser. In this case, my default browser is Chrome, so as you can see, it opens up with Chrome. Now what's the beauty and the nice thing about Live Server? What do you think is going to happen if I go ahead and type something like welcome to my YouTube clone? Now as you can see, it automatically refreshes my website and it updates this over here. And you might be like, okay, so what connects the browser and this together? If you are curious like me, then if you right click on your browser, come over to view page source, then you're gonna see a JavaScript code that gets embedded automatically over here by Live Server. And if you're not sure it's Live Server, you could take a close look and see this over here. As you can see, is this first time log from Live Server. So that's how it gets connected to our browser, and that's done using JavaScript if you're curious to know. So I think that's pretty much what we're going to be doing, and we want to go ahead now and start building out the full structure of what we actually be using. So this is the first thing I'm going to do over here. I'm going to change this to YouTube, and as you can see, it's going to change to YouTube over here. And also I want to change the icon. So this globe icon that we've got over here, I want to change it. I'm just going to close out some of those documents that we've got over here, so I don't have a lot of open tabs that I'm not using. Now in order to change the icon, I'm simply going to pass in the link, and the rel of this one is going to be icon. So the relationship is going to be icon, and the type is going to be, let's say, images/png, because I want to be using a PNG for this one. And for this source, we need to pass in the name of the icon over there. And in order to get an icon, I'm simply gonna come over to, remember the images folder that I told you about? Now we're gonna be using it. So if I open up this images folder, now what do you notice? We have an icon over here. And how do I get this images folder into this code over here that I've got in my Visual Studio Code? Because if I open this up, all I have here is just one file, index.html. Now what I want to do is this. It's going to be as easy as copying these two files and dropping it into this folder. As simple as that. And I'm going to drop this folder down here so my desktop looks clean and neat and organized. So over here, I'm simply going to open up the snippets. As you can see, it's still looking good. Now for the images, in order to pass in the icon into here, into the href, what I want to do is simply call the name of the folder where the images is, and it's called images, and the name of the file is YouTube icon.png. So now when I open this up, what do you notice? We have the icon. Now if I put a typo over here so that the icon is going to be gone, what do you notice? It's gone. So that's it. And yeah, we're off to a great start. Now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and create our CSS file and our JavaScript file, and we're going to link them all together. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one CSS. I'm also going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one JS. And this folder JS is supposed to be outside the CSS, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the folder JS. Outside here, make sure you click on this empty space, hit a new folder, and call it JS or JavaScript, whatever. Then in the JavaScript folder, you want to create a new file. Right click on JavaScript, create new file, and we're going to call this main.js. And in the CSS, you want to right click, create a new file, and we're going to call this one, let's say, style.css. okay. And in order to go ahead and check if all this works and connect it, firstly in the index.html, to connect the CSS, you want to do that at the top in the head section. Okay, so I'm simply going to type out link. The relationship is going to be style sheets. The href is going to be css/style.css. okay, so that's what we called it. And finally the type is going to be text/css, just like that. And also we need to configure the script tag, which is for the JavaScript. So I'm simply going to type out a script tag over here at the body. And what I want to do is this. In the script tag, just before the other closing angle brackets, I simply want to pass in source like this, and I want to pass in JS h1/main.js. Now, how do we see if all this is working? I'm going to go ahead and type our h1 and I'm going to say YouTube. Okay, so now we have YouTube over here, and I also want to click another, I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to change this to YouTube. I'm gonna say something like YouTube, and I want to create a new h1 tag, and this one is going to be h3 because we want it to be a little bit smaller than the first one. Okay, that's way too small. I'm just going to change this to h2, and okay, this looks better, and I'm going to increase my font size so you guys see everything that's going on. Now I also want to create a new button, and we're going to give this button a simple ID of BTN. Okay, and we're gonna call this one subscribe, as simple as that. So you might be like, okay, are we already building out the YouTube clone? No, we are not building out the YouTube clone yet. What we are doing is just checking to see if the CSS file and the JavaScript files are linked together. Okay, and this one I'm simply gonna change these to let's just leave an empty text over here. Okay, there's gonna be an empty text, and we could even do something like, let's get rid of the h2 entirely. We're just gonna leave YouTube and we're gonna leave the subscribe button. Okay, now I want to open up CSS first of all, and I'm simply gonna target the h1. You remember that's what we called it, and I'm gonna give this a color of red, as simple as that. Now what do you notice? It has a red color, so the CSS is working perfectly well. And you can even go ahead and get more creative. You could do something like, let's say, letter spacing, and we want to say let's space the letter by 5 pixels, something like that. And as you can see, it spaced out the letter. Now to check if the JavaScript is working, what we want to do is this. And before I go ahead and continue, I want to tell you this: if you don't want to follow along with this, it's totally understandable, and I'm just going to rush through this one because we haven't started building out the project, the main project itself. We're just trying to see if everything is connected together. Okay, so if you want to follow along, it's still totally fine. If you don't want to follow along, it's still okay. Okay, so in the JavaScript, firstly, I want to define a variable, and I'm going to call this button, and I want to get the ID. I'm going to say document.getElements by ID, and what we'll call the ID in the index.html over here is btn. So we want to get the ID of the button that has the ID of btn. Simple as that. Now this is what I want to do. I want to say btn, then I'm going to add an event listener, and there is a lot of different types of event listeners like click event, mouse over, drag, all that kind of stuff, but I want to listen for a click event. So when I click on this button, I want something to happen. Okay, now I'm going to come over here and add a function, and this function, it's not going to take any parameter because we won't actually be calling this function anywhere. We're just going to do something in here. So when all this works, I simply want to get btn.innerHTML, and I'm going to change this to subscribed. Okay, so subscribe. When I hit the subscribe button, what do you notice? We are subscribed. As simple as that. So as you can see, the CSS and this one over here is working, and I think that's gonna be it. And if you hit the subscribe, it changed to subscribe. As simple as that. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and clear out the JavaScript that we wrote now, and I'm also gonna clear out the CSS because we wanna be needing that. And also over here, I'm gonna clear all this out. So that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. Setting up your project was easy. Hopefully yours is working as expected, and if yours isn't working, drop a comment in the comment section, or you could hit me up. I have all my social media, LinkedIn's up and running. Hit me up with your question, and I'm going to be there to answer your question. I hope I'll see you guys in the next episode.